Hello, this is a video response to a video response from Caitlin. I want to start off with a little bit of background information, just to make things a little bit more clear. I was raised in a Catholic household. I was raised Catholic and I come from a Catholic family, so I'm not unfamiliar with the Christian mythologies and with the writings of the Bible, although I will admit that I have not studied the Bible in any depth during my adult life. You talk about the Old Testament being fulfilled by some of the laws being fulfilled, and you talk about the New Testament confirming some of those laws. You give a list, and in the list are murderers, fornicators, sodomizers, slave traders, liars, and perjurers. I want to give a couple of definitions here. For fornicators, the definition given is voluntary intercourse between two unmarried persons, which is a pretty standard definition, I would say. I do wonder why this doesn't seem to be a bigger issue for the church. It definitely seems to me like it should be bigger than homosexuality, especially considering that most of the Christians I know are guilty of fornication by that definition. As for sodomy, it gave two definitions, and the first one I thought was particularly interesting. The first definition given was anal or oral copulation with a member of the opposite sex. So by this definition, sodomy is being committed even by married Christian couples. The second definition is the more, I suppose, accepted copulation with a member of the same sex. I do want to clear up one misconception here that a lot of people have, and that is that all gays have anal sex. It is a misconception. It is a very big one. There are many, many, many gay men who will never participate in anal sex, who have no desire or interest in participating in anal sex. I also wanted to bring up something that a lot of Christians don't realize, and that is that historically, the Christian church has supported gay marriage. And I will put an article on the side under the notes, or a link to an article. It was originally printed in the Colfax Record. But it shows some artwork done where there are, where you have, let me see, I believe, and I should have found these names before. It was two saints that, here we are, Saint Sergius and Saint Bacchus. And in the picture of them, this old church relief, it shows their marriage being sort of endorsed by Jesus Christ. Moving beyond that, throughout the article they talk about several different Christian traditions in which men were joined in marriage. So that might be something interesting to look at. A lot of Christians don't realize that that was once the case. I will move on a little bit. I want to talk about the Bible for a little while. I have every amount of respect for the Bible that I have for any religious text. The Bible, the Quran, the Tao Te Ching. There are many, many religious texts, and I hold respect for each of them as valid within their faith. The problem I have with people taking the Bible and looking at it as this is strict law is they're not looking at the room for error. There is a tremendous room for error in translation. If you can talk to anybody who's done translation work, there are things that just will not translate into a new language. There are concepts that don't make the same sense in a new language. There are so many ways that things can go wrong, even accidents. And beyond that, there is a history of deliberate mistranslation in regards to the Bible. One such example, and if you'll have to forgive me, I can't quote the passage, is where the Bible says, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." And originally, the word they translated as witch was poisoner, but for the purposes of the witch hunts and everything, changing poisoner to witch gave them more justification. So there is one concrete example of the Bible being mistranslated on purpose due to the social and political concerns of the time. Let's see, you talk about a passage in the New Testament confirming that homosexuality is wrong. You quote Romans 1:25-27. Some of the terms you mentioned were inflamed with lust and that they performed indecent acts with other men. This is another thing that a lot of people don't understand. homosexuality isn't a matter of lust. It is not any more a matter of lust than is heterosexuality. It is a matter of love. These aren't people wanting to go out. This isn't a fight for people who want to just go out and be promiscuous and sleep with whoever they will. This is a fight for the couples who have been together for 50 years, who are losing their children when one of them dies to the other members of that person's family because they don't have the same legal rights to keep their children. This is for the people who lose all inheritance and all property rights, who lose their homes because the families of the deceased come in, and since they weren't married, they claim ownership of all of that property. This is a huge issue, and this is really the only issue. A lot of people talk about, and I guess I'm getting on the gay marriage bandwagon here, or I guess the gay marriage soapbox, but a lot of people will say, you know, well, why the big concern with the word marriage? The big concern with the word marriage is that this country has not been able to pull off separate but equal. It's just a historic fact that separate but equal does not work here. And that is really what it's coming down to, is even with civil unions, even with places where civil unions are allowed, people are losing their children in their homes because the rights are not the same. You talk about, in that same passage, you talk about unnatural acts. Well, this is another thing that a lot of people don't understand, is that homosexuality is far from unnatural. And if you take any look at the natural world, you will see that hundreds and hundreds of species have homosexuality naturally occurring. I'd like to close with a few comments. First, I'd like to say that I commend you on your views on self-righteousness, and I think that that is something that the Christian faith is greatly missing right now. There are too many Christians who are busy going out and condemning others and ignoring their own sins. So you have a tremendous amount of respect from me for concerning yourself with your own spiritual health. For me, religion is a very personal choice. It's a very personal issue. I don't believe that there is one right religion for everybody. I don't believe that my religion is right for you. I don't believe that your religion is right for me. I don't believe that mine is more correct than yours, and I don't believe yours is more correct than mine. I think we get too caught up on little details and we forget the things that really matter. I live my life in a way that is moral. I live my life in a way that most people who are Christian would have no problem with the things I do and with the things that I believe and stand up for. Too many people are trying to force their religions and their beliefs upon others, and that's the core of the problem, especially when it gets down to legal issues, such as marriage, which is not simply a religious commitment, although it is a very religious thing, but it is not a Christian thing. Marriage existed before Christianity, and gay marriage existed before Christianity and within Christianity. I have a problem with Christian morality shaping our laws when I don't believe it is right for everyone. I mean, you have to look at my city, where I live. We have one of the highest STD rates in this nation. We also have one of the highest teen pregnancy rates in this nation. We were one of the last cities to still be upholding edicts of the prohibition. This just ended, literally in an election a couple of months ago. It's a very big deal. We have the highest number of churches per capita, and our schools only teach abstinence. They don't teach any sex education. And this is one example of where religious morality cannot be used for the majority, because abstinence is, I will grant you, a very valid and it is the only 100% safe way. But it is not a path for everybody. It is not a path that everybody chooses. And when that is the only point being put forth, we end up with high STD rates, high teen pregnancy rates. We end up with letters being handed out in my high school warning us that there were AIDS epidemics breaking out in our school system. All of this is because we don't have any education. We are told not to use condoms. We are actually told, do not get condoms, do not use condoms. in our sex education classes. So I think that Christians need to live their lives as good Christians. And if they don't believe that gay marriage, and if they don't believe that homosexuality is okay, then that is fine for them as a personal belief. But when you start to try and force it on others, that's when it becomes a problem. It's a problem for me as an ordained minister that I cannot marry two men or two women to each other, when my faith and my religion completely supports that union, because there's a group of Christian fundamentalists who don't believe that I should be able to do so. So thank you for being respectful, and thank you for your response. I hope that maybe I've shown you some things you didn't know, and good evening.